Hey church family, it's Joseph, and since we're not meeting this evening, we thought we would share with you a short devotional thought. Now this is all new for me. I'm not really used to speaking into a camera lens. I'm more used to speaking in a classroom full of people, so just bear with me. We're all sort of learning on the fly with this. But we thought we would provide just a short video with a devotional thought that you can watch tonight just by yourself or with your family even. If we were meeting, one of our classes would be learning about the book of Philippians. In fact, they would be in Philippians chapter 1, verses 12 through 14. Now, one important thing to know about this book in our New Testament, this letter written by Paul, is that he's in prison when he's writing it. It's probably during his first imprisonment in Rome that we read about in Acts chapter 28, which lasted 2 whole years. We learn from several places in this book that he's in prison. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 7, he talks about in my imprisonment. And so we would imagine that this is a very challenging, difficult experience for Paul. I've never been in prison or in jail before, but I would imagine it's not an easy place to be. It would be very difficult. But what's remarkable about the book of Philippians is that it is brimming with joy. In fact, of all of Paul's letters, it's probably his most exultant. It is the letter from which we get the very famous passage. It's in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, where Paul says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again, rejoice." One remarkable passage, and I mentioned it earlier, is Philippians 1, 12 through 14. And I want to read this passage to you. Paul writes, "I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel." He's talking about being in prison. "So that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear." What Paul says in these few verses is that my being in jail, my being in prison, has actually served to further or advance the gospel. He says it has become known by the Roman guards that I am a Christian, that my imprisonment is for Christ. And the fact that I have stayed faithful while being in prison, well, that has strengthened the Christians in various places. It has made them more confident and bolder in speaking without fear. It's often hard for us to see how anything good can come from difficult circumstances. And we are living in difficult circumstances right now. These are challenging times. And our entire world, it seems, has been upended by this coronavirus pandemic. And we're just sort of figuring this thing out as we go. And many of us are worried, and we're anxious, and we're stressed. But we ought to believe that God can and will work through this season to bring about much good and to bring about greater glory for Him. I noticed on social media the other day, someone said they were praying that after all this is said and done, that millions would be able to say, "I became a Christian during coronavirus." And listen, if the gospel can be advanced through Paul's imprisonment, through his being in jail, then it can certainly be advanced in the time of coronavirus as well. And we ought to be hoping and working and praying to that end. So until I see you again, I hope that you stay well and that you check on each other and that you keep the